I have spoken with my wife about, because there was two moments where I wanted to move to New England, right? And I just missed the window. It was just different circumstances that prevented me from leaving. Um, and I say that to say that I love New Hampshire. I love New Hampshire. I love Massachusetts. It's just a different vibe. You know what I mean? And if it wasn't for the fact that my wife was tenured here in New York, and you know, she when she retires, it's like, yeah, it's literally gonna be, yeah. It
Right.
would make more sense for her to just retire from here versus it's economically more sense. But there's been many times I love New Hampshire. I love New York. I mean, I love New Hampshire. I love Massachusetts. Um, and all those times up there, um, there was a time right after before I went home and transferred to Manhattanville. There was a time where I was gonna move on the low too to Massachusetts, and what prevented that at that time was, my grandmother. She got sick, and
Right.
it was easier to just commute to Manhattanville versus, well, not commute because I was dorming, but after a while I was basically commuting. But it was because of her that I went back, and I don't regret it because Manhattanville was an awesome chapter in my story. But in talking about your story, so you have the Old Headley Fitness page, right?
Right.
With 150,000 plus followers, um, and there's an obvious connection because, um, in looking at your page, there's always at least 30 to 40, not even 40 to 50 views. You have people that, you will comment, and you're always, I can see the inspiration that you're providing from the people that comment on the page. What was the moment that made you realize, like, that was the angle that you wanted to help people? Like, when did it click? Like, what, fitness is it? Like, when did that click in for you?
Um, I would probably have to backtrack a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I got really sick. I don't really
Yes.
just
Yeah.
I know but I
Mm-hmm.
don't really discuss like my, to a point where like my mom doesn't even know because of her circumstances. I didn't
Oh,
want
wow.
certain things to, you know, get in the way of her doing what she needed to do to get herself right.
Right. Right.
I was, I started working out, and, I remember being at the gym one day and I'm like, I got like this weird feeling, like, so I'm like, probably a pulled muscle. So I stopped working out for like a week and just ran the treadmill or whatever. Now, back in the days, I used to like, I was a freaking lunkhead. Like, I used to like lift heavy because you would think like looking like that is. After that, I'm just running the treadmill, this feeling. So I thought maybe I had a hernia. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, yeah, they went, and he was like, you ever got tested for any kind of like cancer or like testicular cancer? And I'm like, man, I'm like, yo, dude, I don't do steroids like that. Like, and he was like, man, you don't even really understand. So I took the test, and I'll never forget. I'm at the gym actually, and it's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and something is like a la carte where there's no price on it, and you
Mm.
cost, and the talking to you
Right.
like a question. I get
Mm.
the phone call from the nurse practitioner. She's like, hey, can you come in today or tomorrow? I'm like, what's wrong? Well, we just need you to come in today or tomorrow. I'm like, okay, what is this regarding? Well, yeah, if you can just come in today or tomorrow. Okay. So I got nervous. So I went that day. I drove to the doctor was only like about, you know, 40 minutes. I drove there, and the
Right.
doctor was tested you and you tested positive for, testicular cancer. And I'm like, all right, what does that mean? And he was
Right.
like, you have cancer. And I was like, and God bless my oncologist, man, really good dude. And, I was like, well, what do I do? Do I take chemo? Do I take radiation? He was like, well, we're going to have you go through radiation because, I mean, you're in an early stage, but we feel radiation will be better for you, after your surgery. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, surgery?
Mm.
He was like, well, yeah. He goes, you have a cancer in your testicles. He's like, you just can't do that. And I was like, and like,
Oh man.
doctor tells you that you have to have your testicle removed, when as a man, it was more of like attack on your male pride.
Mm.
It being really funny because I was like, okay. And when I got sick, my now wife and I were kind of just like dating, and
Yeah.
so my mindset, it's funny because she and I both had never wanted to have children. That's another story for another day. And I'm just sitting there like, being told like, well, you have a 60-40 chance if you have the surgery of having children. I'm two down there. I 40. Wouldn't that make 50? So after he explained all of that to me, you know, had the surgery or whatever, and it was literally you could do it in a day. And I went through, the radiation. It was funny because I remember my first round of radiation. I told my oncologist, I'm like, yo, I can't, like, this is just not, I don't know what is going on, but I can't do this.
Mm.
Why I love him to this day. I'm like, he's like, come on, let's take a walk. And we took a walk and we went to the children's ward hospital where the kids were being treated for. He's like, you see that girl over there? And they're like, yeah. He was like, well, that girl has never left this hospital. She goes through, 3 to 4 rounds of radiation a week. He
Wow.
was like, I think you could do 2 rounds a week. And I would tell
Mm.
you, never complained again.
Mm.
So
Wow.
what lead what and I'm and what led me to do what I wanted to do was, you know, as I was going through that situation, it was a really, really dark time in my life where I was really feeling sorry for myself. And that's when like the anxiety and like the depression kind of took over.
Mm.
And you know, it, back then, they talk about mental illness now. It's
Mm.
kind of, but back then it's like it was kind of taboo.
Right.
I could speak like really as a person who dealt with it, like, the anxiety, the depression. I mean, I shut the world out. I don't even know if you and I had spoke during that time. And
We did, but then like I would try to call you and you either
yeah,
wouldn't pick up or you'd be like, yo, I'm gonna call you. Yeah, I'm gonna call you later. Like it was weird.
yeah,
Like you didn't give that vibe at all. But
yeah.
I
The
yeah.
the one about having anxiety and depression is very easy to like hide.
Mm.
And I didn't, I had cut Ashley, who's my wife now, off, and even Adam, we didn't speak, and I just kind of off. And I'll tell you what the the night that changed my life. I was taking the medication for just like the radiation or whatever, and I had decided like this was the night that like I'm leaving this earth. Like I can't take it anymore. Like I just can't.
Mm.
So I went and I bought one of those handles. So it was like half gallons of Captain Morgan,
Ooh.
and got the medicine, got the Captain Morgan. Like this is like legit. This is the last night that I'm gonna
Right.
be.
Wow.
And, I made my drink straight. Like I remember just ice, Captain, like big cup, Captain Morgan ice.
Ugh.
Got 2 text messages that night.
Mm.
And the first one said, "Hey son, haven't talked to you in a while. Like give me a call tomorrow. Love you." And it was from my mother. And
Mm-hmm.
the other said, something to the fact is like, "Hey, I know we haven't spoken in a while. Just checking on you to make sure that you're doing okay. I don't know what happened. If you don't want to talk to me, that's fine. But just want you to know that, like, I'm paraphrasing, but
Yeah,
just
yeah,
want
yeah.
you. I'm thinking about you." And it was Ashley. So
Wow.
I was on the phone that night, and I'm gonna tell you, I had never had a more challenging night that night,
Wow.
where I'm talking about like there was crying, there
Mhm.
was, throwing up, there was just all types of emotion, anger, sadness. But the crazy thing about it was like, wow, like, dude, the sun came up. And I never forget what I did. I went to go get a haircut because I hadn't gotten one in a long time. And, I got showered, got a haircut, got a haircut, got showered. And I went out to see Ashley and started talking to her. And we've been together ever since. And it was at that point where I realized that, like, the only way I'm going to get myself right mentally is if I kind of change my lifestyle physically. Because I mean, dude, I used to have like KFC night and Taco Bell night. Like, vegetable was like if I had peppers in my taco.
It's a
And
KFC night.
so it was funny because so as I started battling the depression, therapy, medication, whatever,
Mm,
I decided this is when people started talking to me about like Instagram, whatever, because I was mostly like a Facebook person.
mm,
And I had talked to Ashley about it. When I couldn't work out because of radiation, I got yoga and stuff.
yeah.
And again, just he was like, his wife had a double mastectomy. He was like, she couldn't do anything. She got into like really like yoga. So I started doing like hot yoga. I got into like hot yoga and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I just, as I'm battling depression, like what made me feel good was this stuff. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna try it out. So I
Yeah.
started the fitness page on Instagram.
Mm.
And it was funny because the name of the page was called Feeling Fit for You. I don't ask me what that means. I could tell you, like, it means like feel yourself.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
when you work
Yeah.
out and get physically fit, you don't do it to impress a girl. You do it for yourself.
Right. Right.
And, you know, the reason why my following grew was like I started just like scoping Instagram pages. So
Mm.
I did what in corporate America they would call it corporate butt kissing. You know, I'd find a page and I'd shout that person out.
Mm.
Person would inbox me saying, "Hey, thank you for the shout out," and it would start following me. So I'm like, "Oh, this crap kind of works." So then I started using, until I understood how you could actually use like your story to do it quicker. I didn't know any of that.
Right. Right.
I started doing all that stuff, and the next thing I knew, like that person would shout me out, and then one of their friends would follow me, and it became like this thing.
Yeah.
But it's funny that like as it started to kind of masticize into like this whole like page, I'm like, okay, you know what? I left corporate America. That was another reason why I got into like this funk I was in. I
Mm.
left America and I got into like construction and stuff like that, like blue collar work, not through the union, but just like regular blue collar work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was laid off. Yeah, they're like, okay, see you next year. I'm like, well, wait, what? And I got laid off, which a lot of these dudes look at it as like a vacation. That I no longer do that now. But during that trainer's license and stuff like that, and it just really grew. So I'm like, you know what? I could turn this into probably a business, and that's when I changed the name from Feeling Fit for You to like Owen Headley Fitness.
Mhm.
And it became this thing that, like, to this day, still get humbled about. But what really actually kind of really, made me realize that it was going to be something that was going to be, this thing that I was going to dedicate myself to actually happened during the coronavirus quarantine. And you could look it up if anybody goes on the page. I was working out and I did this thing where I sat on a wall and I crossed my
I
legs.
remember that.
I crossed my legs for like, I want to say it was like a minute, whatever it was. So I did this challenge and I started tagging people. And the coolest thing about it was like, it went from like a couple of cats that we knew from school. And then this dude from India did it. And then this
Wow.
did it. And then a lady from Thailand and Germany.
Awesome.
And I mean, you could go there. I posted all of them anyway. And
Yeah.
it became a thing where like that one little wall sit, actually became like mental relief for people who were sitting home because of this quarantine.
Definitely.
And it's funny because like then the day after that happened, legit, heck, I shit you not, I had like 10,000 followers, and I was like, whoa.
Awesome.
Then I started getting some people like, hey, you know, I'm looking at your page, like, can you help me out, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, this is gonna cost you, you know. And it just grew. But I will tell you this, there is a facade when it comes to like, and you and I have spoken about it offline, the facade when it comes to like Instagram. Like you'll get a couple of from, you know, Rahmat Munach, who like you go on the page and there's like no posts, and there's like, or there's like one post, like a picture, or there's 100 same picture. So you know, they're following, and then there's like a true. So the number looks cool on your.
Oh yeah, definitely.
When you look at it, they're definitely a true following that I have, and it's fun. I tell you, like I get up every morning, workouts, and I just like spreading it. It's really fun, man.
No,
really.
definitely.